After the US carried out an unprecedented large-scale strike on Venezuela, capturing President Nicolas Maduro and his wife and flying them out of the country, US President Donald Trump has announced that the US is going to run Venezuela until transition of power happens. Trump did not really offer a timeline for now. He anticipated such a transition of power would take. Trump, however, posted an image of US-captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, and he is in handcuffs. He's in a grey Nike suit and he's blindfolded. Meanwhile, India has issued a travel advisory on Venezuela, advising against all non-essential travel to the country. Venezuela has also called US strikes an act of aggression driven by greed for natural resources and accused America of hitting residential areas. Russia, Iran have condemned the attacks, while France has called the US military operations illegal. Spain has offered to mediate in this whole crisis.
It was dark and it was deadly, but captured along with his wife, Cilia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York, it's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. At my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones, like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer, all perfectly executed and done. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans. The many, many Americans, hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him.
That's Donald Trump addressing a press conference after US strikes on Venezuela and also the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. My colleagues Aditya Rajkal and Disha Bakshi join us now. Aditya, help us understand the big takeaways from what President Trump said today, because on one hand he's saying that US companies will enter Venezuela now and that they will fix the oil infrastructure there, but he's also saying that he will make Venezuela great again.
Well, one wonders, Vasudha, that was this always about oil? Was this always about the oil infrastructure? Because there is quite significant, oil enrichment in Venezuela. And of course, the entire, gamut of the understanding of what Trump said was about the drug trafficking. He blamed Maduro for being the kingpin of the drug cartels. He said that, this was one of the biggest achievements that the US has ever had. He gave details of the midnight operation, the Midnight Hammer, and of course, 250 aircrafts that were used. He said no personnel of the US Delta Force, were attacked in this. They did not face any casualties. But he also spoke about how US oil companies will now take care of the oil infrastructure in Venezuela. Interestingly, they also said that Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, has now spoken to the Vice President of Venezuela to make Venezuela great again. He also committed and said that they were prepared for a second attack and an onslaught if things did not go the right way. There were warnings issued to some of the neighboring countries also in this regard. But all in all, it seems to be another huge message by United States, not just against Venezuela, but to the global community. But there will be, duplicity and hypocrisy of the United States that would also come under question, because US often talks about the international rules-based order. It also speaks about the international law. But is US not bound by that same international law and international rules-based order? That's what China, Russia, and several other countries are arguing at this particular moment. Even though it's a loud message by the United States that, they will conduct such operations if required against any sovereign country.
Right.
But there's huge criticism also coming against the US president. In it all, we'll have to see how the transition of power to a democracy really takes place. Will the vice president fully take control, or there will be another leader probably swept inside the country?
Right. So Maduro is also being indicted on charges of narco-terrorism on foreign soil. So people have questioned if this is not a violation of Venezuela's sovereignty. Disha Bakshi, explain to us, how is the world looking at what America has done, and also Donald Trump's larger message to the world, like Aditya has been pointing out, that he did issue warnings to other countries as well.
Right, absolutely, because when he was speaking to the reporters, many asked that after his action against Venezuela, could Cuba be next? To which Trump and in fact Marco Rubio also said that Cuba is they claim being run by senile leaders, and the fact that Cuba is definitely on the radar of the US when it comes to any future such action. And also, as my colleague Aditya Rajkal said, and I completely agree with him, from US president's almost hour-long speech, it's become very clear that this was less about narco-terrorism and the charges that Maduro is facing, and more about oil, because he made it very clear that US companies are now going to enter Venezuela, take over what Trump claims Venezuela stole US-built infrastructure in the country. They're going to take that back, take back the stolen oil as Trump claims. And then when asked what about the interests of other countries who had bilateral relationship with Venezuela, such as China, Russia, and especially oil ties, US President very clearly said that we will sell large amounts of oil to these countries, making it very clear that he does intend to take over, in a sense, the oil sector of the country and, in fact, rebuild it and make Venezuela great again. So, of course, world reactions, we are yet to see of the latest comments made by the US president, but we have seen mixed reactions coming in from the Western allies, France saying that such military action is illegal.
Right.
And of course, China and Russia condemning this unilateral military action by the US.
So multiple reactions there. Thank you, Aditya, and thank you, Disha Bakshi, for joining us. US President Donald Trump there. hailing the US armed forces, US forces for the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, and also saying that US will continue running the country of Venezuela till the transition of power takes place. He has not really offered a timeline for that though. But how did the world react to what US did today? The capture of Venezuelan president has sparked strong and divided reactions worldwide. Venezuela's government has denounced this operation as an imperialist attack. It has urged citizens to protest, while US officials have hailed it as a historic moment, and they've said that Maduro could finally face justice. Russia and China, meanwhile, have condemned the move as a violation of international law, with Moscow even demanding the release of Maduro and Beijing calling it a threat to peace in Latin America. Meanwhile, European leaders have expressed concerns over legal aspects of this episode, and they've also warned of double standards. And Cuba, in fact, has voiced fears that the regime change could be spreading to its own shores.
It's obviously a fast-moving situation, and we need to establish all the facts. What I can say is that the UK was not involved in any way in this operation, and as you'd expect, we're focusing on British nationals in Venezuela and working very closely with our embassy. And so I will want to talk to the President, I will want to talk to allies, but at the moment I think we need to establish the facts. I think President Trump is doing a press conference later, so hopefully more information will come out then.
What is clear, though, which the White House has said, is that America carried out strikes on Venezuela and captured their leader, Maduro. Some politicians in this country have already condemned that. Do you?
Well, I want to establish the facts first. I want to speak to President Trump. I want to speak to allies. As I say, I can be absolutely clear that we were not involved in that. And as you know, I always say and believe we should all uphold international law. But I think at this stage, fast-moving situation, let's establish the facts and take it from there.
The world reacting in multiple voices there. It's time for a short break. More news and updates on the other side. Welcome back. The battle for India's richest body, BMC, is officially underway. BJP, Shiv Sena, RPI, Mahayuti alliance officially launched its campaign for the upcoming BMC elections. 20 to 227 seats at stake here. There was a grand rally, a joint rally of Eknath Shinde, Devendra Fadnavis that was organized in Worli today, where Devendra Fadnavis has promised the people of Mumbai that the Mahayuti mayor will not just be a Hindu but also a Marathi-speaking person, while Eknath Shinde has lashed out at the Thackeray brothers, asking a question as to why everything that they're promising now was not fulfilled when Uddhav Thackeray was the chief minister of the state.
या देशामध्ये प्रत्येकाला आपापला धर्म जपण्याचा अधिकार आहे, आपली पूजा पद्धती जपण्याचा अधिकार आहे. आमचा या ठिकाणी जो विरोध आहे तो त्या ताकदीला आहे जी ताकद या महाराष्ट्रामध्ये, या हिंदुस्थानच्या भूमीमध्ये वंदे मातरम म्हणायला नकार देते, त्यांच्या विरुद्ध आम्ही या ठिकाणी आहोत. मला काही पत्रकार म्हणाले, दोघं भाऊ एकत्रित आले, आता तुमचं काय होणार, आता तुम्ही कसं लढणार. मी त्यांना सांगितलं, देखकर धुंधली सी ताकत हौसला हमारा कम नहीं होता. देखकर धुंधली सी ताकत हौसला हमारा कम नहीं होता. अरे झूठी आंधियों से वही डरे जिन चिरागों में दम नहीं होता.
काही लोकांना फक्त निवडणुका आल्या की मराठी माणूस आठवतो, पण या मराठी माणसासाठी तुम्ही काय केलं सांगा तरी एकदा. एक तरी काम मुंबईसाठी आणि मराठी माणसासाठी केलं सांगा. महापालिकेची निवडणूक सुरुवातच धुमधडाक्यात झाली. महायुतीचे तब्बल 68 नगरसेवक बिनविरोध निवडून आले. महाराष्ट्राच्या इतिहासात पहिल्यांदा हे घडलंय. मी मुख्यमंत्री देवेंद्रजींचं अभिनंदन करतो आणि सर्व महायुतीच्या पदाधिकाऱ्यांचं अभिनंदन करतो.
So NDA leaders there pitching this as a battle between development and dynasty. Remember, these elections are going to take place on the 15th of January. The counting for BMC and the most coveted BMC polls for Mumbai Civic Body will take place on the 16th of January. With that, it's time for a short break. More news and updates on the other side.